Pyramid schemes are pretty much illegal things in general terms of society. You know, the pyramid scheme where you sell an idea to somebody, only the pyramid people at the top get all the money, and the ones at the bottom are all the losers. Our society is turning out to be like that in every sort of corner of the word capitalism, which is a lot better than a lot of others, better than communism, but how can you compare two bad things together and say, well, that's the answer? There's a different way that obviously I'm trying to bring forward as well, where it neutralizes that whole lot, and there's less profiteering and super rich at the top because they don't really need that much. Everybody needs a good home and good shelter and good food, and those human rights need to come up. But the dark forces to me are, some say this could be alien intervention. I haven't seen enough of that. I've just seen that the people of power and politics that are super wealthy are doing it more for reasons of profit and greed, if you have to use the word, and spoiling that for the majority of the population. So that's
Sphinx looks eastwards, so tradition has it that it's watching the rising sun. What if it's watching the stars? 3 stars and the 3 pyramids, that is the message. Interpret the pyramids as stars. I've got a theory now that I want to prove the Sphinx. The Sphinx being an interpretation of Leo. I think Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval were first with that one. I want to really try and prove it. Now, if this is really Leo, in other words, from the side profile, it looks like the star constellation of Leo, then we've got to show this. If this is Orion's belt, which is Bauval's theory, the two must fit together. But it hasn't been shown in any perfect way that if that's Leo and that is Orion, can we measure that between the two? And you can. You've got 3 in a row. We can measure that angle to the Sphinx, and it's pretty much 45 degrees. And if it's like that in the sky, then we've already got one important bit of proof to prove that that Sphinx is representing Leo. And there it is. That's what the stars look like for Leo. There's the Milky Way. Isn't it amazing? You take the brightest star in Leo and draw a line to the middle of that area. We get actually 44.1 degrees. Now the ancients liked perfect degrees. When they built here, they made it 45. And an astronomer that's Capetonian, very well-known astronomer, no names mentioned, he told me because it was out by 0.8 of a degree, your theory falls flat. It's a waste of time. Okay, the ancients built everything in perfect angles. They wanted to show geometry was sacred. Think of the beginnings of the Freemason society. Geometry is a sacred thing. It's part of the design of the universe, and certain angles need to be shown. If you build a city, you're not just going to make it nearly 45 degrees there and that's 90 degrees. You make it, everything geometrically laid out. That's how we humans do. On the horizon, in the northern hemisphere, Orion's belt rises vertically. And this is quite important as well. If the Sphinx is watching these rise, it's watching let's call this a cosmic signpost. That's what it really is. It's the 3 easiest to pick out in the night sky. Everybody knows them. Follow the 3 and towards Taurus, away from the bright star Sirius, which is the other direction. You get towards the cluster of the Pleiades, and you follow that leg shape to get the finer detail where that star is, or you measure 33 degrees, 2 options. It's not that easy measuring 33 degrees. You need basically to stand on, when it's rising, line a bottom of a huge big divider, and measure upright 90 degrees, a divider and a 90 degree instrument, which became the sextant, I think. But think of those 2 icons, a divider and a right-angled triangle. That is the general symbol for the Freemasons. I believe it started off with a star origin story. But again, that's my theory. Let's see how it fits in. Starting with what used to be known as secret society, the Freemasons have said we don't have any secrets. It is now public information. Their history is history, and universities are showing a lot of their material. This wonderful document is called the First Degree Tracing Board. It's the founding important basis of the Freemason beginnings, I think. Nobody really knows exactly the meaning, but they say they believe it is great wisdom and it's important. They use a tradition of 33 steps, 33 degrees, working your way to this illumination. The oldest map I could get hold of Giza shows a lot more on the plateau that isn't there today. All those pyramids weren't weathered or naturally falling apart. They have been stripped by humans. The whole 50 pyramid grouping to build, not just Cairo, but if you go back even further, the Egyptians were stripping them for their own temples. They've been tracing blocks recently and found that a lot of the Egyptian temples have the same bits of granite and the same stone marks and cut marks that are on the small one, the Menkara, this little one here, have been found to be using those stones as well. So they've been stripping them. That's how old they are. There's a story as well with the Sphinx. The Sphinx was cleaned by Tutmosis at a time, and he said it was a forgotten legacy before him, and if he cleaned the sand around the Sphinx so it was covered in sand, he would learn the secret of the Sphinx. So that's going back a few thousand years. This stuff is really old. It's pre-Egyptian, if you want to use that word as well, like the pre-Incas. This is a lost civilization of advanced technology. So look at the geometry here. If you take these anomalies and just join the lines, it's quite neat that they all cross the exact halfway point on that line. So to me, we have a bit more than coincidence here. I believe that that is Orion. But if that is Orion, let's look at the rest of the stars. That's quite interesting. If you take 360 degrees around our little Earth and join all the constellations that run next to the Milky Way is the yellow one there, and here's Orion, Aldebaran, Pleiades, and those three important stars are here. Then there's Andromeda, it's a whole grouping here, like a triangle part, Roshiat, Pegasus, Altair, down to Achernar, Canis Major, Canopus, two very bright stars. We have two very bright stars here, but the others aren't as bright. But that is the grouping of the brightest stars 360 degrees around the Earth. And wouldn't it be nice if all 50 pyramids match that template? And I'm going to show you they do beautifully. Very much a little drawing. Okay, I've just shown them in here. Cluster there, there's Andromeda, you can see the general shape. I'm going to show you close-ups of the triangulation. The two biggest pyramids down in Saqqara, yep, we have a nice match with the shape of Canopus and Achernar. There's a constellation that our astronomers put together. I didn't put those lines there to show you that it matches their pattern. This is what astronomers did probably hundreds of years ago. Maybe they got it from old maps too. Who knows when it really started, but these are the constellations marked by our astronomers. And it's quite interesting that it matches the same patterns on the ground. What are the odds of that being just coincidence? I reckon that is a really good pyramid star map. And that's what Sitchin thought were 7 planets. But our archaeologists agree that's the Pleiades. I think it's the Pleiades and that little star. Again, artifacts all around the world. They say that's the Pleiades. We have the crescent moon, if you can call it, but it's a crescent shape. Crescent shape, very sharp crescent shape. 3 Orion stars are rising. There's Pleiades again. That's how they rise on the horizon. That even looks very similar to the Pleiades. Very good match. Just look at the whole picture of Stonehenge, because people think that that is all that's there. But if you look, when you go to Stonehenge and look across the valley, guess what's in the valley? Pyramid ruins. They call them barrows in England, and they are very big. Some of them as big as Silver Hill. Very massive, big barrow chunks of earth mound that look like rounded pyramids. That's a close-up view of it. We're going to look at that better just now. There's a bit of a clue here north of Stonehenge. It shows a stone carving with what might be Stonehenge, 2 rings and a causeway. That's what Stonehenge really has. The 2 rings of stones, and then there's a causeway. It seems to be Stonehenge. What this is saying is there's an enclosure on the ground that celebrates the 7 stars of the Pleiades. I've already got that pattern. I'm looking for my little 7-star depiction. If that's the most important monument, to me that's the X that marks the spot. It's very easy going backwards and sort of back engineering all these things. And I'm looking for what's across from Stonehenge. And guess what's across from Stonehenge? How perfect is that? Is that the Pleiades? It's pretty damn close. We have a grouping of 3 that are in alignment, sure. But they've shown the 2 down here are those 2 really. They've showed them more like those 2, but these are very small stars. So I think it's more than likely just showing the line, because there's a causeway that goes exactly the same direction as that one. And they're both aligned with midsummer sunrise, so they straightened out the whole thing in simplicity. And we've got an angle to measure. Would you believe the angle between those 3 and that angle to our place that marks the spot in other ancient places is that angle X. There's a match between those angles.